Fantastic job, Harry. And out in the viewing audience, you can see why the Heartland Institute is so proud to work with the Global Warming Policy Foundation. Foundation or Forum, I'm sorry.
Foundation and now Net Zero Watches.
All right, so Foundation, I got it right. So many of our groups, we have so many very effective spokespersons for climate realism. Sometimes the exact title gives me a little, okay, is that right? But anyway, great job. Jim Lakely here, who is setting up the next presentation, he says that you shouldn't ask a question that you don't know the answer to. Certainly an effective trial attorney knows that to be true, especially if you're cross-examining a hostile witness. And of course, you should always know what your own witnesses are going to say in advance too. But that is very true in a legal context. And the reason is, if you don't know the answer, they may say something that ends up embarrassing yourself, your witness, or your case. But in this case, we welcome questions and present questions that we don't know the answer to because, quite frankly, Harry's not going to say anything that is not backed up by facts, by evidence. And that's what we're doing. We're searching for truth. At the Heartland Institute, we see quite clearly that we're not facing a climate crisis. We don't mind being asked the tough questions on that. And if and when the evidence ever shows that we are creating a climate crisis or that there is a significant risk of that, then I would hope and expect, and I pledge to you, that we will take that very seriously, and that will impact how we view and present our views on the topic. So not only myself, Harry, and others, we actually welcome those. But Jim, you'd make a great trial lawyer. Remind me, I have some people I can recommend you to, because not all trial lawyers follow through on that advice. I've seen it with my own eyes. Anyway, so an interesting thing here, as we came to Scotland, Jim Lakely, Keely Jukala, and I, on behalf of the Heartland Institute, and some of our speakers who you've seen and will be seeing, the process was quite different and more difficult than in previous years coming to Europe. Because of COVID restrictions, COVID precautions, etc., we had to undertake literally hours of filling out paperwork, of learning and abiding by procedures, of making sure every I was dotted and T was crossed so that we can make the trip across the Atlantic and not be stranded here in the UK either. And you know, it's ironic because if you are accredited by the United Nations for this climate conference, you don't have to go through any of that. If you're here for any other reason, you effectively need to have taken the vaccine, or you are going to have to jump through all sorts of hoops and go face all sorts of obstacles, quarantines, filling out of paperwork, documentation, contact tracing, etc. But if you're affiliated with the United Nations, if you are part of their power structure, their climate power structure, you don't have to do any of that. You just present your accreditation and you're in. And it's ironic because if COVID is such an existential threat, and to be sure, COVID has cost millions of lives around the world, then you would think that you would take it seriously for all people. There wouldn't be political exemptions given or climate advocacy exemptions given. And yet that is the case here in Scotland. And I bring that up because our next two speakers on the agenda, even though they are European, they're not trying to get here from the United States, from South America, from anywhere else, but Europe had to not make it to this climate reality forum because even though they're coming from the Netherlands and Germany, still the restrictions, you have to be planning for this, taking part of it so far out in advance and still deal with all of them. It just made it impracticable for them to be here. So we regret to inform you that Wolfgang Mueller of the European Institute for Climate and Energy and Marcel Kruk from Clintel, the Netherlands, will not be speaking. But we do have a treat for you because the climate realism movement, truth itself, and even humanity itself is blessed to have a brilliant advocate for truth who is participating in the climate realism movement. Lord Christopher Monckton, 3rd Viscount Monckton of Brenchley, has been one of humanity's most brilliant minds and effective advocates for truth and for sound public policy dating back decades. He was an advisor to Margaret Thatcher here in the UK. And since those days, he has immersed himself in a variety of topics, including the science, the economics, the policy implications of global warming. And we are very fortunate to have his attention and dedication to truth regarding the global warming debate. So Lord Monckton had prepared to give a presentation here. We had it scheduled for tomorrow, but Lord Monckton is an accomplished speaker, has given many presentations on global warming related topics, and is willing and able to step up and give a second talk. So he will be giving a talk between today and tomorrow. He'll be giving one on the science and another one on economics and public policy. So with that, I am very pleased to introduce to you Lord Christopher Monckton.